Well, you know what participating whole life insurance is. You know what UL and universal life and IUL and VUL are. But what about some of all those other crazy terms that are flying around out there?
You are listening to Wealth Talks, and today you're going to get to hear some of the terminology surrounding life insurance, what terms are really important, things you want to know about, and what's just pure fluff on top.
Well, you know, there's so much marketing that goes on around trying to sell life insurance that sometimes it gets a little confusing to know exactly what an agent or producer or some marketing piece is really talking about. Some of those concepts float around like investment grade life insurance. What in the world is that? Or capitalized whole life insurance. I mean, without some reference, what do they actually mean?
Exactly. And there's different terms, that everybody comes up with for marketing their flavor, their version of it. You've likely heard of the infinite banking concept, becoming your own banker. That's not so much about the life insurance, but more about the strategy surrounding how you use it. There's also the bank on yourself concept and a bunch of others you could add infinitum. We have our version called the Perpetual Wealth Code. What that is it's a system for wise money management. Life insurance can be an ingredient in it. It is not what the whole system is about. And that's an important difference.
It really is. And we always want to assure you that you do not need to own life insurance to participate in the Perpetual Wealth Code. The Perpetual Wealth Code is just a good money management system. However, owning life insurance and using it in the Perpetual Wealth Code will enhance your wealth building abilities. Some other things that come out when people are selling life insurance is, this policy's got a rider on there that's going to protect you for chronic, critical, and terminal illness.
Or long-term care, they'll even say.
Sure. And to be real frank with you all, most good insurance companies provide a free, and I say free rider on their policies that give you critical, chronic, and terminal insurance for those situations. That's a free rider. That's not something to market real big because it's free for most good insurance companies.
Right. And some agents will tell you that is a long-term care rider. It can be used for long-term care expenses if you were chronically or terminally ill, but if you're just looking for assisted living or in-home health care, it may not cover that. So you want to be aware of that. Obviously, you could use the policy value for that. Sometimes you actually would want to have a specific designated life insurance policy that is specifically meant for long-term care coverage. It depends on what you're looking for.
Part of the confusion comes because each company names their product differently, and each company changes their products frequently as the standard commissioner operating tables change. They move to a different product, switch what products they're selling, and move on from there. Not that they throw away the other contracts because they have to honor those. And once the contract's in force, it's unilateral with participating whole life insurance. They can't change it. You can. You can decide not to pay the premium. But the old contract that used to be available is no longer available because they're working on new CSO tables. Mm-hmm. And so that can be confusing too. So what do you have? Do you have this product designed by this company or this product designed by that company? Do you have a wealth maximization account? Do you have a separate account? Do you have a money managing account? Do you have all these terms can just fly at you so fast that it feels like you're drinking from a fire hose.
Ben was my brother Ben. I was looking at an illustration, or several illustrations actually, of an index universal life insurance policy that came across our desk yesterday. And he was looking through these things, and one of them's called maximum funded or something like that. Another one's called enhanced legacy. Another one called reduced cost. These are just, different designs, probably that are even built into the insurance company's software, just to help agents tell the difference between one strategy or one product design over another. It really doesn't have any meaning beyond beyond how the policy was designed.
And what marketing agency decided which sounded good? You know, I was always interested in how much money has gone beyond the names of certain drugs like Viagra or things like that. Huge budgets to market for what might sound the most appeasing to the public. And yet, if we just get down to it, what is Viagra for? Okay? And the same thing with life insurance. And so if you're confused with all the terminology, you just take some time out and go to our website and look at the video on how to read a life insurance illustration.
That's going to tell you what you need to know.
That's going to, regardless of all the fancy names and terminology, you will learn what the premium is, what the cost basis is, what the guaranteed cash values are, what the guaranteed death benefits are, and what the projected dividends are. And if it's an universal policy, you'll learn what the guarantees are, and you'll learn what the projected values are, which is speculation.
Yeah. And, you know, the terminology, once you have the fundamental terminology surrounding the life insurance, the product names, the product design strategies, all of that really becomes the fluff that you don't have to pay attention to anymore. You just look at the numbers, and then you can build from there. Now,
That's correct.
You do want to look at the guaranteed numbers because, like you said, you will also see the projected numbers on there. And especially in vehicles like the variable universal life, the indexed universal life policies, those are based on market projections. In the case of whole life insurance, the projected values are based on the profits of the insurance company, which aren't guaranteed either. And so you have to look at, you know, what the values are that you're guaranteed to be able to have to work with. That's your foundation.
But guarantees are the only thing that we can really look at. And as we talked to a couple of insurance company actuaries and over a couple of podcasts ago, and they said that that's the only thing companies guarantee is their guarantee. Nobody guarantees their projections, whether it's an IUL projection, an index variable, universal life projection, or whether it's a dividend projection in a participating whole life insurance. Nobody guarantees those. Those are projections. Those are speculations based on what either the past market has done or what the past profits of the insurance have looked like. So it's very deceiving for you to just compare a life insurance policy and base your expectations on what the non-guaranteed values could be in the future.
Now, I want to switch a little bit here and give you a test, if you will, kind of a test that you can look at any of the information that you're reading online and tell pretty quickly whether it's all fluff or whether you're actually getting the real underlying material. So when you're reading anything, look, you know, if you see one of these terms, wealth maximization account, investment grade life insurance, capitalized whole life, whatever it is, look deeper on the surface. If they see if they tell you what's behind that. If they don't, then it's just a sound good term. And you really have to find out what's behind that in order to know what it means. If it breaks down the term then and goes into the details, you know, the strategy behind it or why, then you know you actually have something that you can look at, understand what's going on.
Well, John, good money management, as we teach it, always has to do with keeping control of your assets.
Yes.
Because like Warren Buffett's father taught him when he was 7 years old, the best way to create equity is to leverage other people's money. But if we don't have control of our own assets, then we can't be in a position very easily to leverage other people's money because our assets can become collateral so that we can use other people's money if they're in our control. That's the whole purpose that we use life insurance for. Now, we could use our real estate investment holdings to do that, but then we would have to go to a bank, go through all of their approvals, sign away our firstborn, whatever it takes to get all those 32 documents signed and certified. And then we would pay interest to the bank. But we're not participating members of the bank. And so it just makes sense to be members of a participating life insurance company that when we pay interest back to them for the use of their money, which they held our asset, our death benefit as collateral for, that we get to profit from that. And that's why we advocate so strongly participating whole life insurance.
That's right. Yeah, it gives you a foundation, a secure foundation of the guarantees, and you get that opportunity to share in the profits of the company on top of that. But you don't lose access to your money. If you need to access it for something else, a real estate investment, some people will be using it to pay off debt if they have outside debt. Some people will be using it to save for passive income for their future. And that brings up another point. Different people are coming at this concept from different angles. And so the advice that one person may start with could be different than what somebody else will need to start with. And just because one is right doesn't make another wrong. It's just maybe not the right timing. Mom talks about, oftentimes, you've heard her talk about this, Dad, about the how teaching children to read.
Yes.
You tell them that the letter A says ah, and then they can read words like man and pan, things like that. Later on, you tell them that it can also say A in words like cake.
Yes.
And did you lie to them the first time? No. It's just that they were not at that stage of the advice. So what are the different stages of money management? As people are getting introduced to the perpetual wealth code and using their money wisely, that is, and using it in conjunction with the participating whole life insurance. What are the different stages that they might be coming at this through or passing through as they increase their money management?
Well, in our book, Prescription for Wealth, in the last chapter, it says, you are here. And when you go to a mall or you're in like a national park or someplace and you look at a little map, it'll have a little red arrow and says, you are here. Well, without that reference point, you don't have a clue where you're at. So first step is you got to find out where you're at, okay? And then you have to be enough disgusted about where you're at in order to decide to move someplace else. Because if you're not disgusted enough of where you're at, Jim Rohn says, you'll never change. You'll always just stay right where you're at because you're comfortable there. So you got to have a little bit of disgust in your life about where you're at. And from then, it takes a desire to be someplace else. And it takes different choices that you make in your life than what you're making right now to start moving to that other place. And finally, it takes consistent discipline to make sure that you keep moving in that direction. Yeah. So the first step that we have to do is we have to decide that I'm not happy where I am at right now. I want to go over there, and this is what I've got to do to get there. And financially, the first thing that you have to do is you have to start keeping more of the money you make.
And I know you make a big difference between just saving money, like most people think of it, versus keeping the money. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. Robert Shiller, the Nobel laureate in economics, says that Americans save 40 years of their life, but they earn a 0% rate of return on it because of volatility, taxes, fees, and penalties, and inflation. So saving money really doesn't help Americans. What we have to do is keep it. And keeping money is best understood if we understand it in the form of a relationship. Let's say that you've got a pet. You don't save the pet. You don't put them on a shelf and take them home when you get home and put them back up on the shelf when you're done with them. That's saving. No, to have a pet, you have to have a relationship. That means you need to nurture it. You need to groom them. You need to feed them. You need to take them for exercise them. You need to take them to the vet or whatever you have to do. There is an ongoing maintenance that is required in keeping a relationship. And if you're going to keep money and grow wealth, you have to have a relationship with it. You have to nurture it. You have to groom it. You have to maintain it. You got to do all the things with it to make it grow. And the problem is that traditional financing does not allow you to do those things because they take the control away from you and give it to a money manager. And that money manager does all those things for you, not as good as you can, but they charge you and keep most of your profits. And that's why people who save money by putting it in the hands of some other money manager don't earn anything over their lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is like stage one of the investment. And that could apply to anybody regardless of their level.
Yes.
Coming into this. So take now, for instance, somebody that has a lot of debt, hasn't necessarily been able to save or to keep more of the money that they make. One place where we would start out is with the 10-20-70 rule. 10% of everything that you make should be yours to keep. 20%.
That's so important, John, because again, going back to Warren Buffett, and he's just a great example of someone who has been able to put good money management into practice. And he says that the interest you pay to others is not as critical in your wealth building as the interest that is compounding for you. And so a lot of times we hear people saying, oh, you've got to cut up your credit cards and just concentrate on never having a coffee out or a donut or never take a vacation until all your debt is paid off in full and you get everything paid off. And you get there, and we did that, and you have nothing to show for it. And you feel very, very empty. Because if we had been taking the time to keep more of our money, working on the contracts that we had where we did have debt in a mortgage or we owed a personal line of credit someplace, exercising that contractual right, but saving the difference instead of trying to pour it in to get rid of those creditors, when we got to the end, we would have had a massive wealth. But now we got to the end and there was nothing. Just our debt was paid off. Because compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, according to Einstein. And you never want it working against you. So the sooner you can get something compounding for you, the better off you're going to be.
Better off. Yeah, so somebody that has this debt, they use the 10-20-70 rule to manage their budget, so to say, so they can keep more of the money they make. Now that 10% is something that they can keep and start managing while they pay that debt off. And then that takes it right into the next stage of the money management. Somebody who's learning about the perpetual wealth code that doesn't have any debt already, they're already coming in at this stage. They're paying cash for everything. They should be able to live on the 70% for their lifestyle and to save 30% or have that to manage, to keep.
And then we go one step further when you start managing money very well and you have a lot more money and you don't even need 70% of the money that you have to live on. What do you do with the rest of it?
Yes.
You keep it. Because keeping money makes it grow. That's completely different than saving. Savings is kind of like hoarding, where you just kind of bury it in the ground and hope that it grows. But keeping it is cultivating it, watering it,
yes,
and nurturing it, making sure that it grows. And so we keep that because the truth of the matter is the more money that you have is a representation of the more people you have served. Money's a spiritual thing, and it comes to us in a spiritual manner if we are providing greater services and goods and value to other people. Now, of course, there's a lot of people out there that believe in theft, including the government in the form of taxes and things like that. That's not the way to get money. In fact, the government has no money. It's in debt, way up to its hocks,
Yeah.
So that's not the way to make money. The way to make money is to keep it.
Yeah. And that is something that you can apply regardless of what stage of money management, what volume of money that you have. The difference between saving and keeping, big difference. Apply that in your life and it'll make a big difference.
So don't get confused about all the terminology. Get educated. Go to our website. John, are you going to put that on the podcast link here for them to see how to read a life insurance illustration?
How to read a life insurance illustration. That's a link to a video that Mom created. And then, of course, we have lots of other videos, podcasts, blogs. You'll see that when you're on the life-benefits.com website. We'll put that resource link in here for you today.
We're big advocates of education. We home educated our children Michelle was an educator before we got married, and she was an educator after by taking and educating our children at home. We don't school anything. School are for fish. So take the time, get educated so that you know how to read a life insurance illustration, and you won't be fooled by all the tomfoolery out there of the different names and the different, you won't need a thesaurus to understand what's going on. You can just look at an illustration and you'll know whether it's what you need or if it's something that is not going to be in your best interest.
There you go. Until next week, you're listening to Wealth Talks, where we talk about solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life. Have a wonderful week.